The Duke Blue Devils travel to Tallahassee to play Florida State this Saturday, 7:30 on ABC. Yeah, the Duke Blue Devils are playing 7:30 ABC this Saturday night. The eyes of the country will be on this game. There's a lot of questions around it, especially with one particular Riley Leonard. I'll dive into that in just a second. Hey, I'm Brian. I'm not Bobby Durkins. Well, at least not here. If you don't know who Bobby Durkins is my Clemson alter ego. There he is. He drank Dabo's sweat a few weeks ago to prove how all in he is before the loss to Florida State. But if you're new here, welcome. Welcome, friends. Subscribe and turn on the notifications. It's free. Also, if you want to support on a monthly basis, there is a join button below the video. Unless you're on an iPhone, you might not see it. But welcome all return viewers. I hope you have subscribed. Florida State beat my Tigers in overtime. And that was terrible. But you didn't even scratch the surface of doing to Clemson what the Duke Blue Devils did to them. I mean, I'm sorry. I really don't know what to say other than that. I mean, y'all looked good and stuff, but Duke drug Clemson by 3 touchdowns. Yeah, Clemson had 200 on the ground, over 200 in the air, and all this fudge stuff. And it was the turnovers and that's, but Duke capitalized. And it was Riley Leonard who did it. Now, we know what happened to Riley Leonard in that Notre Dame game. It was a fun game to watch. The 6'4", 220-pound genius. He had someone fall on his ankle. I thought he broke his ankle. It made me sick. But it's a high ankle sprain. And the guy goes out there, or at this point, the guy might actually play this Saturday. Now, will he? And I'm going to go ahead and give away the obvious. Let's go ahead and make the obvious statement. And that is, if he does not play, Florida State will beat Duke. Now, I'm going to warn you, Florida State fans. I know you probably have the same outlook on Duke that we did going into the very first game. We knew they were much improved. We knew that last year that Mike Elko, first year Mike Elko, went and did his thing. He's looking good out there. It's like, but have you looked at their schedule last year? They didn't play Florida State. They didn't play Clemson. They didn't play there's another team. They didn't play Notre Dame that they had to play this year. I know, they're like the stepbrother in the conference. Like, they're in the conference, but they're not, but they are, but they're not. They get special treatment because everybody thinks that they're going to run away. Anyway, another subject. And then Duke did what they did. And I'm telling you, Florida State fans, this Duke team is much improved. You got Dwayne Carter on the front lines. I mean, that guy could play for either one of us. But it all comes down to, does Riley Leonard play? Now, I was highly concerned with the Duke football team having to go into that North Carolina State game. North Carolina State, they're not that good of a football team. I've watched them several times this year. They don't look good. This is probably one of the worst Dave Doran teams I've seen in quite a while. But they went out and won 24-3. Now, has Duke played in this hostile environment? That's what Doak Campbell is going to offer. Florida State, that's what I see with you. You have Doak Campbell. You have a Saturday night game on ABC. You're used to this stuff historically. Jordan Travis, here's a guy, and he's been banged up. He went out of the Syracuse game. He returned. He threw for over almost 300 yards after he returned. Johnny Wilson didn't play this week, but according to what I just read before I got on here and did this video, it looks that Johnny Wilson is going to play this game. There's some question about some offensive linemen possibly coming back. Now, if you go and look at the line, Florida State is a 14-point lead. The spread is 49. Then let's throw in a few other things to look at. Total yards. Duke averages 388 yards per game, total yards, 189 in the air, 198 on the ground. Florida State averages 449 total yards per game, 272 in the air, 177 on the ground. Now, Duke is more balanced. If you have to play against Leonard Riley and he can move, it's going to be a problem. Now, let's go to the defense, and I'm going to get to my whole quarterback thing because Florida State, you're not out of the weeds yet. Everything's playing in your favor. Vegas believes that you're going to win this game. I think that I'll get to that in just a second. Obviously, you're the favorites. But your quarterback is banged up, and he's been living off of borrowed time. I think that had Clemson kept blitzing him, and they should have, they might have knocked him out of the game. But we didn't, and you won, and congratulations for that. Let's go to the defense. Duke's allowing 298 yards per game, 164 in the air, 133 on the ground. More stingy in the air than they are on the ground, but they're pretty stingy on the ground. Florida State's averaging 300 or is allowing 362 yards per game, 221 on the ground, 240 or 141 on the ground. So 221 in the air, 141 on the ground. Now, when you consider those stats and then you look at who Florida State has played to this point, you think that they did that against LSU. They've done this against Clemson. Then you turn and look at Duke and you think about who they've played up to this point. They've played Clemson. They've played Notre Dame. So both teams, and if you want to say, oh, LSU is way better than Notre Dame, who just dropped a 4-touchdown win over Southern Cal, you can't do it. If you do that, if you're doing that, you're lying to yourself. Notre Dame, if guilty of anything, they're inconsistent. So Duke has a good defensive scheme. So what do I do if I am Duke? And I'm coming to Doak Campbell. You guys are Florida State, you're on a path to the college football playoff. You're on a path to the college football playoff. There's not one team in the country right now that I can say is just like the Mac Daddy. There's been years that you looked at one team and said, they're just better than everybody. You can tell. No matter how hard you try, you're going to lose to them. That's not this year. Florida State, you have a chance to regain prominence this year. You have the tall wide receivers who are super athletic. Keon Coleman, Johnny Wilson's supposed to play this game. Jaheim Bell, I don't think he's hurt. He should be playing. You have Benson, the running back for Florida State. The question is, how could Duke beat Florida State? It's a tall order in Doak Campbell. There's a reason that everyone believes that Florida State is going to beat Duke. There's a reason. There's a reason that Vegas has you as a 14-point favorite. It's those massive, massive wide receivers. It's Jordan Travis, who even when he was hurt, that's one thing I was very impressed with Jordan Travis. Walking away from that game, I have a lot of respect for that guy that he didn't just throw up his hands and go, I wish you would block for me. I wished you would block for me. And then gave up. Nope. He went in there. He played. He's thrown for 1,482 yards, 13 touchdowns, 1 interception this year. Kudos to Jordan Travis. Better yet, let's ask this question. How could either team really get to the other? It starts with the defense going after the quarterback. Now, if Riley Leonard doesn't play, And I think the proper pronunciation, Henry Bellin, who played this weekend against NC State. If he plays, I think Florida State probably wins this game by 2 or 3 touchdowns. No offense to Henry Bellin. There's a lot of talent on the Duke football team. But Riley Leonard was the one who killed Clemson. Yes, the other players, yes, the forced fumbles, yes, the fumble recoveries and everything. Riley Leonard made sure that Duke capitalized. There's the reason why people are focused on this guy. This guy right here should be discussed as one of the top picks in the NFL draft. I would trust this guy taking over at quarterback for me versus a lot of names that I consistently hear all the time, and I'm sitting there going, why? Yes, you can have great athleticism, but if your decision-making is suspect, you're not going to make it in the NFL. Your athleticism will win you some games and make a highlight reel and sell some jerseys and stuff, and it's not going to win you a Super Bowl. Ask Tom Brady. He's not a great athlete. He's not an athlete that just absolutely blows you away with his athleticism. His decision-making is world-class. Once in a lifetime. That's the reason he has so many rings. He can wear them on his toes if he wants. Riley Leonard is that guy. I'm not saying he's Tom Brady. That's not what I said. He's that guy. Just as much as Jordan Travis is important to you, Florida State. If I am the defensive coordinator for either one of these teams, I go after the quarterback. If I am Duke, I have Dwayne Carter on the front lines, but I have some exotic packages. I have some blitzes coming from different. I have pressure always coming on Jordan Travis because I'm going to tell you this. Jordan Travis, when he has time, he is going to find one of those Goliaths running down the field that can actually run and who can actually catch. But when Jordan Travis does not have time, like most quarterbacks, and he's already battling being beat up off and on this season, you have a chance. You don't stand a chance against Jordan Travis if he's standing in a clean pocket. Clemson can tell you that. Why we stopped pressuring him on those 3 different drives, I have no clue other than we wanted to lose the game. Jordan Travis is that good. If I'm Duke, I bring pressure from everywhere. I bring pressure from every imaginable place that I can at different times. He always has to think, hold on, I don't see pressure coming at, there it is. Or maybe it's coming straight at him. You let him know it's coming, whatever it may be. That's what I would do if I were Duke. And if I'm Florida State, no matter whether it's Bellin or most definitely Riley Leonard, I'm bringing pressure. Duke, you did what you did to my Tigers. You humiliated them worse than anyone has humiliated them in quite a while. Everyone could talk about Notre Dame beating them last year 35-14, but they're Notre Dame. They're not Duke. Duke is not historically that good. That's why everybody's watching this. But even with Riley Leonard, if you have Riley Leonard and he's about 85%, FSU's going to have problems. But the last thing you want to happen, especially if you're Riley Leonard and you have hopes of going to the NFL, is to get hurt in this game because you tried to play when you probably shouldn't have. But with that said, I call Florida State wins this ball game. I call Florida State wins this ball game to the tune of about 35-17, somewhere in there. If Riley Leonard plays and he's moving well and he can move around in the pocket, I think we could shave that down. It might be a more competitive game, but I just see the Seminoles being too much in Doak with Jordan Travis. Now, if they hit Jordan Travis and they start to sideline him, you might have a different game then. If you're Duke, you might have a different game. You might actually have a shot at winning this game. If Riley Leonard's playing great and Duke is battering Jordan Travis and they're consistently doing that, I could see Duke maybe having a chance then. But unless all those stars align, I just see Florida State being too much. So That is my prediction for the game, calling the Seminoles winning somewhere in the realm of 35-17, somewhere in there. So, folks, thank you so much for joining me on the channel. I hope you subscribe, especially if you're new here. If you've been watching for a while, why haven't you subscribed? Subscribe. It's free. It supports the channel. I have a membership button below. It is really cheap. Really, really cheap. You won't even miss it. If you're on iPhone, you might not see it. I don't know what it is with Apple and that whole thing going on. Also, remember my sponsors. The links are below this video. 4puttcarts.com, beverage and cart service for golf courses as well as special events. Reach out to them and say hello. Also, I'm giving away 3 or 4 of one of these via the Sawmill Shop. The Sawmill Shop is sponsoring this giveaway. Their link is below. They make great stuff. A friend of mine makes these wonderful signs. So check them out. Let all of them know that you heard about them on the Not Bobby Durkin Show. Folks, thank you so much for joining me. I look forward to seeing how this game plays out. And I will catch you later this week. As always, go Tigers.